everyone, welcome back to my daily video. Every day we learn, grow, and take one small step forward. Let's get started.
Welcome to The Explainer. You know, it's pretty amazing how a simple piece of cloth can tell the entire story of a nation's identity crisis. Today, we're exploring the history of Afghanistan's flag, a symbol that's been ripped up and redesigned more than almost any other in modern history.
Okay, so to get us started, let me ask you a question. If you had to take a guess, which country do you think has changed its national flag the most times?
Now, you might be thinking the United States. And with 26 changes, you'd technically be right. But here's the thing. Most of those were just adding another star to the corner. Afghanistan, on the other hand, has had over 20 changes since the early 1900s, and pretty much every single one was a complete and total redesign, like a symbolic reboot for the entire nation. There's this great quote from an expert in vexillology, that's the study of flags, by the way, who calls the Afghan flag a vexillological seismograph. And that's the perfect way to put it. It visually records the country's relentless political earthquakes. Every new flag signals a massive shift in power, in ideology, and in what it even means to be Afghan.
And these political earthquakes aren't just random. They really represent this deep, ongoing battle between three totally different visions for what Afghanistan should be. Let's break down what those three big ideas are. So first up, you have the vision of nationalism. This is the idea of Afghanistan as a modern, independent nation-state, and it's represented by that iconic black, red, and green tricolor that a lot of us probably recognize.
The second vision is socialism. This represents a period of secular, Soviet-aligned rule, and its flag is a dead giveaway. That dominant red color and those socialist symbols are a direct visual link to global communism.
And the third competing idea, theocracy. This is the vision of a state governed by fundamentalist religious principles. It basically throws out all the nationalistic symbols and instead uses the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith, on a simple, stark banner.
All right, so let's dig into that first vision. Let's see how modern nationalism first tried to stamp its identity onto the country's flag.
For centuries, it was pretty simple. Afghan rulers used solid black flags, mostly to project power and independence. But then, 1919 happens. They gain independence from Britain, and a modern emblem gets added. Just 9 years later, the modernizing king, Amin Khan, gets back from a trip to Europe. He's full of new ideas, and he introduces the nation's very first tricolor.
And these colors were not picked at random, no way. Each one was chosen to tell a part of the national story. Black represented the difficult past under foreign influence. Red was for the blood spilled fighting for that independence. And green symbolized hope, prosperity, and the nation's deep Islamic faith.
And you know what? This new symbol was incredibly powerful. The tricolor was so good at capturing the national spirit that it stayed the stable, internationally recognized flag for more than 40 years. That's a huge period of stability for a national symbol.
But that long stretch of stability, well, it was about to get completely shattered. A violent ideological conflict was coming, and it would play out right across the nation's flag. The year is 1978, and this is the moment where everything, and I mean everything, changes. A communist coup, the Tsar Revolution, brings a whole new regime to power, and one of their very first symbolic acts is to just completely erase the past. They toss out the black, red, and green tricolor and adopt a solid red flag, packed with socialist symbols, making it crystal clear that they were now aligned with the Soviet Union. But as they found out pretty quick, you can't just delete a nation's identity. The all-red flag was deeply unpopular, so the regime started to backpedal. By 1980, they brought back the traditional tricolor, but they slapped a socialist emblem right on top of it. Then by 1987, still trying to win over the people, they watered down the emblem even more, taking off the most obvious communist symbols like the red star. So after the Soviets leave, the country completely fractures into a civil war. And you can see this division perfectly represented by two competing flags. The internationally recognized government used a green, white, and black flag. But the group that actually controlled most of the country, the Taliban, used something totally different, a stark white banner with the black Shahada. It was a complete rejection of the whole idea of national colors. Okay, now we move into the next phase, the Republic and its eventual erasure. After the events of 2001, there was this massive international effort to unify the country under a single, historically grounded flag that could hopefully bypass the really painful recent decades of war.
So what did they do? They resurrected the classic vertical black, red, and green tricolor. And here's the really clever part. The new emblem they put in the center prominently displayed the year 1919. This was a super deliberate move. It was a way to anchor the new government's legitimacy in that moment of independence from Britain that everyone respected, and in doing so symbolically leapfrog over the entire communist and Civil War periods.
And just look at the level of detail here. They were so serious about this flag that its exact Pantone color codes were written into the Constitution. This wasn't just a flag. This was a serious, deliberate attempt to build a lasting, stable, modern national symbol for the 21st century.
But as we all know, this huge nation-building project and the flag that represented it came to a sudden and dramatic end on August 15, 2021.
With the collapse of the Republic, the tricolor was immediately gone. The Taliban's white banner, with its singular, powerful focus on the Declaration of Faith, returned as the official flag of the reinstated Islamic Emirate.
But the story doesn't quite end there, and this part is really fascinating. Officials from the current government have actually hinted that even this flag, the symbol of their purist ideology, might not be permanent. They've suggested it could be changed by collective agreement in the future.
So, what does that all mean? Well, the crucial takeaway here is that this long, symbolic battle for Afghanistan's very identity is still very much alive. The flag is still a contested space, a canvas onto which the country's future has yet to be painted. And that leaves us with one final and I think pretty provocative question. What story will Afghanistan's next flag tell?
Thanks for watching today's video. Remember, progress comes from showing up daily. See you in the next interesting video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.